In today's video, I'm going to show you how you go from some lovely Liquid DNB drums that sound like this, and then turn them into something that sounds a little bit or almost exactly the same as this. Ultimately, what we go through in today's video is how do you create these lovely pads and pianos. And there's some cool little sounds in there that we make, which are these, which can be applied to lots of different genres. And then this. It's all covered in the next 20 or so minutes. So you know what I mean? If you've got 20 spare minutes, you may as well spend them here so that you can become a better producer. And it's very easy. Very, very easy. I've actually recorded this one 4 times. First time, I had horrendous flu. The second time, I just didn't really like it. The third time, I actually did really like it. And then my computer blue screened and I had to reset everything, which is cool. And then this time is good. It ends in this absolutely phenomenal 16-bar loop, but the audio is a bit shit, I won't lie. But you're here for the lessons and the journey, not the end product. Like, comment, and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. Give it a like if you've liked it. If you've not liked it, then, you know, just go back to your day. Be positive in the world. And anyway, let's crack on, shall we? Okay, so first and foremost, what we're going to want to put together is just some lovely, lovely chords. So this piano here, soft piano, is one that just works really, really, really well in Liquid. So while that's installing in the background, I'm just going to use a really simple grand piano because we just want to get some keys in, really. There's loads of different ways that you can find chords because I don't really know anything about music theory. One of the things that you can do is you can hire a teacher. They can teach you over a couple of years, grades 1 through 8. Maybe you go through to doing some more higher level, stuff, but it's not going to help you today. So other things that you can do is you can Google it. I'd always recommend looking for chords and acapellas on things like TikTok and YouTube Shorts, or what you can do is you can use ChatGPT. So I'm going to use one of those methods to put together some lovely chords. So the chords that I put together sound like this. And that is just in the key of E minor. A little bit boring in terms of the structure of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm now going to figure out where I want these chords to be based on the phenomenal beat that we've already created. So, it wants to go ba, ba. So that wants to go back to, like, I don't know, maybe here. And we'll try putting this all the way over here. Ooh. Yeah, feeling the bass line. And I want that one to come in sort of like here. Now I think it wants some like higher notes in there as well. So some of these bad boys. So I want it to go boo da. So boo, probably B. Boo ba ba. Da da. Oh, immediately. Right. I mean that sounds pretty nice. I'm immediately thinking that this is sounding a bit weak, so I want to start to increase and enhance, but just the fullness of it, really. So what we're going to do is we are going to create a chain or a channel within this first audio effects rack, and this is just simply going to be an enhancer, because we're going to populate this with loads of things to enhance the sound, and then we're going to put it into a separate audio effects rack, which is going to be our effects, right? So in the first enhancer, what we're going to want to include is an EQ, wider, and a multi-band dynamics. I don't have wider yet, so I'm going to go ahead and download that. So it's free, so I definitely recommend it. First of all, an EQ, just to cut out any of the low end, so that makes it sound like this. What we want to do is just kind of like raise everything sort of in the middle and maybe give it a bit more in the high end, like this. So it's already sounding a bit richer. What we then want to do is we then want to put in our wider just after this. And then finally what we want is we want a multi-band dynamic. What I'm going to do just for the purposes of this is I'm going to put on just a default. I'm going to push the highs and push the mids a little bit here. And maybe a touch of the lows. Before, it sounded like this. And now it sounds like this. So we're just giving ourselves a bit of a richer sound. So what I might do is I might also just add a few of the lower notes as well, 1 octave down. So maybe this B and A can go down also 1 octave. And maybe even these two lots of notes here. Yeah, that sounds pretty nice. So what we're now going to do is we're now going to close this, drag in another audio effects rack, and we're going to apply, again, just 1 chain, and we're going to call, actually, no, we're not. We're going to do 2 chains. So we're going to have dry and then FX. So the dry we're not going to do anything to, because what's going to happen is this chain here is now going to go into this effects rack because it does it in order, and it's going to hit the dry and it's going to hit the effects at the same time. So we're still going to have this original sort of sound that we created here with the enhancer, and then it's also going to be applying effects to the FX. Now you don't necessarily have to do it this way just because we only have 1 chain here, but it's just in the interest of this tutorial, and it also just makes it a bit cleaner. So in the FX, what we're going to do is we're going to add in a delay and a Valhalla, and then also, oh, actually, maybe we do that twice. We're actually going to create 3. So we're going to call this reverb, and then we're going to have this as delay. In the reverb, we're going to use one of my faves, which is the Supermassive by Valhalla. Again, free, download it. Make sure it's on 100% in the mix. Virgo sparse verb. Oh, that sounds cool. Turn the feedback down a bit. Maybe give it even more delay. Yeah, I like that, but I also do want to put in another reverb just to really stretch it out. What we're also going to add is an auto pan, and this auto pan is going to be really slow. So if we made it more extreme, you can hear, hopefully you're wearing headphones, but you can hear it's going right to left. So it's just sort of like filling out the space a bit, and I don't want it as extreme. We just kind of want it a bit in the middle and then kind of going left to right. Cool. Then what we're going to do is we're going to put a delay on here, and this delay is just going to serve as something just to fill out a couple of the little hits and pads and just kind of the little hit noises. So I like to go, well, first of all, we want it on 100% wet. I like to put it on ping pong, and then we can just play around with what sounds good. Oh, that sounds good already. I feel like it wants a bit more in the high end. So I'm going to add another multi-band dynamics and just sort of push the medium and high. Now what I'm also going to do is I'm just going to put another EQ8 right on the end just to catch any of those horrendously harsh frequencies at the bottom, and then I'm going to put a 22k high pass on there as well, again just to catch any of those horrible frequencies. We're going to put in a glue compressor, and I'm also just going to put in a very light limiter in there as well. So what we had to begin with sounded like this. Then we added this enhancer. Then all these effects. And then we just controlled some of the effects with this post effects. Cool, so now we have our sort of our first piano, which is sounding pretty nice. What we now want to do is we want to start creating some really interesting sounds and presets and whatever with What a Surprise with Serum. So there's a really nice tutorial somewhere on TikTok. I'll post it here, but this guy basically just talked about using 2 saw waves, pushing the pushing the unison up to 16, and then that's basically it. Now that doesn't sound very liquidy. So what we then do is we then put in an EQ and we're going to bring all of this down like that. And we're actually going to make these really, really quite intense like this. And what we're going to do is going to kind of give it a bit more in the high end, something like that in the low end. Now listen to what's happened to it. Is that not the dreamiest pad that you've ever heard of? So what we're going to do to begin with is we're going to enhance this sound with a saturator. So I like to use a bit warmer. So it's just making it a bit grittier. We're then going to put on a distortion, and you can get distortion from overdrive, for example. So distort, pretty intense. We're going to bring the dry wet right down, the dynamics right down, the drive right down. So it's just giving it a little bit of sizzle. We're then going to add a compressor just to catch any of these. You see? Probably about that. And just an EQ8, just another one. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create another audio effects rack, and this is where the sound is just going to absolutely come to life, because we're going to add a utility and we're then going to add an LFO onto that utility. Now what this is going to do is it's going to allow us to control parameters with an LFO using things like rate and depth and whatever else. By the way, you can apply this to pretty much any effect in Ableton. You get some really, really cool results. So we're going to hit this map button, then we're going to hit it onto the gain. So here, for example, you can see that the LFO is controlling the gain, and it's just bringing it all the way down and then close to the top. Right, so we don't necessarily want that. I think that what we might do is, first of all, we're just going to put it on rate mode and then go to half like this. So it's going to go woo, woo. And then what we want is we want the depth to be getting to the top of the gain, right? So we want it to be at sort of 100% volume, but then we don't necessarily want it to be going all the way down. So we just need to play around with it a little bit. There we go. That's probably about right. Maybe we just decrease the depth slightly. And then with the piano. But maybe what we want is we could also control it in a slightly different way. So maybe what we can do is we can control it with this mode. So if we put it on so it's just a free rate. That sounds pretty goddamn nice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go show automation like this. I'm going to bring it up because it sounds good when it goes quite fast. Then I'm going to bring it down. And then what I like to do is I always like to make sure that it's roughly in the same spot from where it started off so that the loop sounds nice. Now maybe what we want to do is sort of do it a little bit offset. Bring it up a bit higher. Nice and slow. Slowing down. What I might also do on this is just put on a bit of reverb to kind of fill the space out a bit. So we're going to low cut. Oh, that sounded nice. I might even just cut these sort of lower notes as well, because they're going to be creating a bit of interference. Like that. Oh, that sounded nice. Cool. Now, the other thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to create some sort of like a rhythmic style thing. So I'm going to use, again, shockingly, deeply shockingly, I'm going to use Serum. First of all, I'm going to use a sine wave like this. I'm going to turn the random all the way down. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on the noise, and I'm going to choose one in, any in the organic, any in the SOR. I personally like this Atmos 18. It's just got a nice bit of movement to it. I'm going to turn the level of both of these down, and I'm going to apply the LFO to both of these. So now it sounds like this. I think you can hear sort of where we're going with this. Now, what I'm also going to do is I'm going to bring this sort of attack just forward a little bit. Make sure that this is turned off. And then I'm going to make sure that it's not on BPM. Now that already sounds good, right? That already sounds good. But what if we wanted it to sound like this? Or what if we wanted it to sound like this? How can we do that? What we're going to do is we're going to apply this first macro modulator to the rate. So now we've just got one thing. And then what we're going to do, and this is the really cool one, is we're going to drag this second macro into the center like this. Now listen to what happens when we crank this. Now that just sounds absolutely immense, I won't lie. Now, of course, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to choose a note to use. So I'm going to use this top one, but you can hear what it sounds like as a chord. I'm going to bring this down 1 octave. So I'm going to hold shift and click down key. We're now going to control LFO depth and rate of both of these different parameters, right? So you've got LFO depth here. So maybe what we want is we want that to sort of like open up toward the end. And maybe sort of like this, because again, we want it to sound like quite a nice loop. And then what we also want is we want to control the LFO rate like this. So maybe we want it to start faster and perhaps even just follow the audio effects rack here. So it's just not quite as juxtaposition-y, which is a new word. Now, what I'm also going to do, as per usual, is I'm going to use a parallel process reverb. So you know the score by this point. This is going to go on 100%. Going to bring the decay down a bit, low cut a bit. So it's just giving it a bit of space. And we could even do some like really, really insane things. Like we could use a ping pong delay. Because that's just then using the tops. Oh, that sounded nice. It's a bit quiet, so I'm just going to increase the volume a bit with a utility. Maybe put the delay first. So let's get some of that reverb. And what I'm also going to do on this delay is I'm going to just group it with itself so that we've got the dry chain again. Like that. So then with all of it together, I quite like that. This guitar's really did not mean to find that, but I quite like that. If we just had this as sort of a really like washed out sort of echoey boy. Oh yeah, man. Now what we could also do with this is we can now start to add some vocals. So I'm going to put on an audio effects rack and I'm just going to do a pretty simple audio effects chain where we've got the dry, we've got the reverb, we've got the delay, because I know that I'm going to want all of these. So again, 100% wet. I'm also going to make this a bit wider by using our favorite plugin, Wider. And then just some delay in there as well. Nice, quite like slowish delay. way too much of everything going on there. So that delay wants to come right down. So it comes with this other vocal as well, which I'm going to put in here. I'm going to use the same vocal rack for the two of them, but obviously I want to turn this reverb down quite a bit. No, these want to be, I do think these want to be separate now. So I'm going to double this all across, and I think maybe this first vocal is the vocal that we hit in terms of the drop, and then this one here we don't. This is going to kind of be like more of the B section, so that's going to come like that. Maybe we put that there. Cool. All right, so what we have with no bass, by the way, it sounds like this. This rate pad to not be as extreme. Right, let's put a bass line in. I don't know why I've not put a bass line in, but I just want it to be a really simple, basic sub sign. I know it's going to sound good because I use it literally all the time, because it's just a really nice kind of weighty sub. So with this sub, I'm just going to make sure there's no sort of top end, because sometimes there can be a little bit. So I'm going to use this kind of soft high pass up to about 250. So you can hear it's just giving it a little bit of niceness at the bottom. I'm going to put a compressor on to sidechain the kick. I want it to maybe go like doo doo. Now I want to enhance this bass line a bit, so I'm going to create a reese bass, and then this reese bass is just going to be, again, a serum. And then we're going to use the two saw waves at default, and we're just going to detune them by 24 and then minus 24. Going to turn the random down on both. We're going to push the unison up to 5 and maybe 7, as long as there's one in the middle. Bring the detune down a bit if we want. What we're then going to do on the filter is going to put it on MG low 24 on A and B, boost the drive, put it on key tracking. Going to push the resonance, put it in mono. And then what we're going to do is we're going to cut out all of the low end. So here you can see that this is getting cut out at 240. So this probably wants to be at around the 240 mark. So I think that'll do it for today. Obviously, we now need to structure this into more of a fully fledged banger. How do we do an intro? How do we keep it interesting as we go through? When do we use vocals? All of this will be covered, hopefully, in the next video. And it hopefully won't be another 2 months before I put it together. Yeah, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you send me your music on SoundCloud. Some of you have and have also received brutal commentary and feedback. But it is making you a better producer. And I think that's basically it for today. So cheers.